Alexander here, coming to you with another Archon podcast. I dropped some heavy information, shared a lot of personal details in the last several podcasts, and I want to reiterate that this podcast series is going to continue to be abstract. It's going to continue to have wild turns, twists, surprises, things that make you go, things that even make you go, okay, this Alex guy is actually as crazy as we thought, and others may have a different interpretation. But ultimately, I'm convinced that sharing ultimately what I believe to be the truth is the very thing that's going to help me evolve and see greater bits of truth. I believe that I need to release and empty my cup in order to receive. I need to release what I think is my download. And I've thought about some of these things for years, but I've always held back. I've always held back because I always wanted the true affection from today's Earth female to heal the abandonment issues caused by early girlfriends and my mother. My lack of connection with the feminine, with other women on today's planet that for whatever reason believe that I'm not someone to be trusted. I've been studying this phenomena within my own life, connecting the dots and realizing there is something strange and abnormal going on that's beyond what maybe I thought was racism, or perhaps what I thought was judgment of me because, I'm seen as a conspiracy theorist. I have seen a consistent pattern of dream invasions, of women flipping their personality 180, with the criticism of me sounding similar and almost down to a T like a script. And so I have seen the patterns of what appears to be Archonic influence in my own life. And I believe that the classic traditional New Age explanation of things, that if something bad happens to you, if you're coming under spiritual attack, that it's because of your karma. But I do believe in karma. I do believe to a certain degree that we do create our own realities. But there is a certain mentality that seems to be one-sided, that seems to say this is the only reason, karma that is, the only reason why some people come under spiritual attack. And I'm convinced there are other reasons why some people come under spiritual attack that are based in rational common sense, that's based in the wisdom of spiritual street smarts. That if you are on the planet and you are discussing things that's outraging people, that's causing anger in the minds of people, that's causing anger in the spirit world, or aspects of the spirit world that is invested in the Archonic world, then within this physical plane of existence, which some believe is a hell dimension, as in this is not paradise, as in this is a fallen realm. Some of us may be doing good deeds in this realm, but that doesn't make us gods or goddesses. We're here doing great work, I think hopefully to get out of such a realm. So if we're gonna go against the stream, and there are many examples of people that have lived hard lives on the earth, that lived in different places on the earth, separated by thousands of years. Whatever day and age, be it Egypt thousands of years ago or somewhere today in middle America. United States of America, the corporation, seemed to be bankrupt. Year 2015. The voice in the wilderness, the person being called the conspiracy theorist, who's trying to warn his fellow brothers and sisters about what's really going on. It could be a staged world war, it could be something else. But just like thousands of years ago, the person thinking outside the system is going to be called a kook. This is not just about what someone wants to call conspiracy or politics. It deals with the very basic foundational beliefs of man, dealing with who are we, where are we, who's really running this show, what's really running these authoritative structures of our day and age, science, education, media, the military, the supposed cutting edge of space exploration, moon bases, Mars bases, talks of trips to Mars. Who's really behind it? So, throughout time, there's been a very small percentage of the population that has asked the ultimate questions about the nature of what's going on with government authority figures, the nature of what's going on with us, our spirit or soul. the non-physical us, the eternal us, the divine us, the powerful us. I didn't say God. I didn't say pretty little goddess teacup, worthy of worship and worthy of chasing with lust. But powerful beings, powerful energies, powerful spirits. I try to say I love you, but the words get in the way. Words get in the way. Whatever we are, we're powerful. We're intelligent. And we're in a day and age where I think it's easier to see the bullshit. And we are using technology to share our experiences. And we can see the patterns of the sun, we can see the patterns of mankind, and we can see patterns where human consciousness appears to be invaded, and it manifests. We see a cause and effect. It manifests in the gender wars. It manifests in the distrust taking place, the lack of romance, the lack of love. The one thing that's missing, and there's true love, not to be confused with lust, but true romance that I do believe has value on this planet. And so there is a war on romance. There is a war on love. There is a war on true masculine energy. And there is a war, a spiritual war, on true feminine energy. Most men and women on the planet do not believe such a war is taking place. They refuse to. They would rather believe that the opposite gender, be they male, be they female, whatever their case may be, they would rather, just like a Democrat thinking the Republicans are solely responsible for all the world's problems, just like Republicans thinking Democrats are the sole. Now, I want you to observe objectively and take yourself out of the equation of how insane the mindset is of one political party being angelic and the other political party being demonic. When you have a Congress made of both Democrats and Republicans, when you have special interests that finance each and every presidency, you see, you would think that we would learn a few things about what's taking place and how things really work when we look at what's known about our current political system. These aren't hidden truths anymore. They're open truths. It's just how it is. They've also made some of the corruption, by the way, the obviousness of the New World Order's existence, the all-seeing eye in multiple corporations, media companies. You know, why do they have to keep putting that out there? Letting us know, putting it in pop culture, the rituals with the Grammys. Why is that happening if they want it to be secret? It's because incrementally, this transhumanistic world with the gender confusion and the satanic symbolism and everything that you're seeing on the stage that's basically freaking some people out so much that they're refusing to address that it's taking place. All that is the open rollout to condition the current generation and the next one into thinking that all these emblems and all these symbols and all these rituals that are taking place, being transmitted with technology, that it's normal. And that it's normal to have sexual thoughts about alien beings. To have sexual thoughts. And we now look briefly and think about, without playing the song from Katy Perry called E.T., the lyrics depicting a sexual experience or act with an alien or extraterrestrial consciousness that in the video she's encountering while out in space. You know, it just so happens that one of the top space articles that's been trending the last year or so is talks of a future plan to take people off planet, one-way trip, never coming back to Earth, one-way trip to Mars. Keep in mind, there's a lot of mysterious funding for this program, billionaires people have never heard of, and it's like a replay, oddly enough, in our face without hiding it. Oddly enough, it's like a replay of the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie Total Recall. So we're in a world where we talk about the voices in the head concept taking place in relationships, controlling the sexuality of women. In some cases, I would say controlling the sexuality of men. To make a brief note, I am seeing an increase in the the female alien sexualized, bodies depicted in art, on the internet, in sci-fi movies, depicting the sexualization of the alien female, maybe 2 breasts, maybe 3 breasts, maybe green skin, maybe blue skin, maybe something else. And there is a rise in interest, apparently, in the depiction of non-human forms of life having sexual intercourse, highlighting that this consciousness that's able to sit down and draw this filth, to animate this filth, is coming through a human being, a human artist, that truly enjoys placing one's attention, energy, on that, using their human fingers to bring that forth into physical reality. Because they can see that reality. Because they are living in that reality. Because that reality of alien sexual intercourse has been beamed into their consciousness. They may very well think that those thoughts and fantasies that they masturbate to are their own. But in fact, is that truly their own? There are also many urban legends of our day and age of women on this planet that have been visited in the night, in their dreams, by entities that have claimed to be ascended masters. And it is known that the largest sexual gland is not in the body. It's not in our genitalia. It is in the brain. And it is that very switch that turns one on and off in the brain that can lead one to be controlled through their own sexuality, which can easily be confused for spirituality. Human beings, traditionally, by and large, both men and women, easily confuse the chemical reaction to certain things that triggers pleasure and reward in our brain with a spiritual experience, be it pleasure through drugs, or pleasure through sex, or pleasure through materialism, or pleasure through travel. Human beings often confuse pleasures of their body with some sort of spiritual experience due to how their brain is sending the reward signals all throughout their body, sending them wave of euphoria after wave of euphoria. It is simply important to understand that waves of euphoria, either caused or induced by drugs or experiences, is not the same thing as evolving who you are as a spirit. And so we can see in pop culture songs like Katy Perry talking about sex with aliens and how that is there to target females. And we can see in the world of pornography and the world of video games that's targeted to really young males in today's day and age, depicting future realities. Most people know about how video games can allow the fantasy player to attack a prostitute and rob a prostitute. This has been ongoing for several decades, or at least a decade, with the Grand Theft Auto game. And so instead of something being done to change that, nor that I'm proposing that one should, involve certain laws to violate one's free speech, but simply to know that it's been widely known that these things are being done in these video games, and still parents will buy those video games for their children, endorsing such behavior, endorsing such imagery, whether in their minds they think their thoughts are their own. Oh, it's always been this way. Oh, it's just a video game. Oh, it's just virtual reality. It's not real. It's not real. Humankind, by and large, is totally ignorant to how their thoughts and what they focus on actually has an effect on our reality. Now, the mainstream New Age thought tries to easily explain this away to saying that only focus on positivity. So there is a complete misinterpretation of the law of manifestation, of the law of attraction, of the law of free will, creationism. Okay, so simply by a few people being aware of a potential event, that potential, that whole event isn't going to manifest because a few people are considering its potential and are considering warning others. The New Age belief, though, is there to say if you gaze upon that abyss, if you gaze upon that event, even if you have an intention of helping other people, you could actually trigger that event to happen. Now, let me tell you how illogical this thinking is, even within the world of New Age. Free will would then be violated. A few people concerned and wanting to help the world and see this potential event, how would they be creating the event? Thus, violating the free will of the millions of other people on the planet, simply because a few people were gazing at the event and thinking, is this what the New World Order is planning? And should we warn people? So the New Age movement, for the most part, is filled with people that are parroting a message that the world needs to be unified. DNA needs to be upgraded. And people like Stephen Greer, that have been very influential over the years, have told many global women in the New Age movement that have been seeking contact with ETs that we should be ambassadors, that we should reach out. And so you're talking about going from 0 to 100 of people talking to spirits, wanting to talk to spirits, but skipping the basic process of learning what it means to ground yourself, of learning what it means to shield, of developing abilities to be calm enough to be in your own third eye, your own space, your own awareness, your own clarity, to where you are able to differentiate. You're able to hear your own signal. And in some cases, a good part of meditation, like Vipassana meditation, is not channeling. It's being aware of your own signal or whatever else and being calm regardless, not reacting to that signal, not trying to listen to the words in that signal, but actually quieting the signal, quieting the monkey mind. The most basic of meditation, from deep breathing to just observing your breath, deals with your breath being a powerful force and tap into that primal life force. And also quieting your thoughts. And at the same time as you quiet your own thoughts, becoming more aware of what is in your thoughts. And as you become more non-reactive, calmer, less autopilot, less autobaton, more equanimous. And this is the foundation of Vipassana. I'm not promoting this like the ultimate, but it's one meditation technique of many. But if you've never started meditating, if you've never stopped to really quiet your own thoughts and hold the silence, you could start with 30 seconds. You can move to 3 minutes. You can Google meditation, Vipassana meditation, on the internet, on YouTube, and you can get familiar with the basics. I can walk you through the basics in a future video, but I'm not simply just going to talk about Vipassana. We'll talk about grounding, we'll talk about shielding, and the basic concepts and principles. What I don't have is all the answers, but what I do have is at least a few years of experience going over the basics. And over the past few years, I've listened to hundreds of radio shows and podcasts covering this very specific issue. Going through those radio shows, trying to vet them for additional information. You can call it cutting edge. And the more I look at it, the more it's really about the same basic principles that we keep hearing more and more. Stay connected to nature. Maintain a positive, healthy, loving outlook. When it comes to grounding and shielding, it deals with grounding to the earth and visualizing that and believing that's actually taking place. Doing things like flushing out your energy field, grounding. Many people describe a grounding cord connected to your root chakra going to the center of the earth. Okay, but understand that your body has energy centers. Other people describe it another way. Instead of the 7 chakras, it's the 3 energy centers: the head, the heart, and the belly. And this is based on Eastern medicine. This is based on the Chinese understanding of the body's energy centers. these teachings that relate to our breath and our energy centers in no way, shape, or form is demonic to even suggest that. And some super religious people do. To suggest that to center yourself through breathing is inherently demonic is to say the same thing that eating food is then demonic. That by seeking a healthier thing than a McDonald's burger, by, say, having some quinoa instead with some organic beef, that by seeking to eat healthier, you're now pagan because you're worshiping nature. Now, such a thing you would consider to be absurd. But that is what someone's saying. If they say that to use your breath to calm yourself, which is scientifically proven to be a healthy thing, to take a deep breath of fresh air, to where you breathe in, your belly expands, and you breathe in, after maybe another 10 seconds, expand your chest. You know where this goes. You hold it. Your heart rate is decreased. A sense of calmness comes over you. As you visualize that one breath of fresh air, having all the energy that you need, literally feeding you. The air around you being food, being nutritious itself, knowing that there is prana in the air. As you pull that new energy into you, and then you release all that old energy. So basic deep breathing is very healthy. And then observing your breath. Not necessarily deep breathing, but just observing your breath, understanding the Vipassana principles of long-term sitting with the intention of mastering your senses to the point where you're not jumping up and down every 3 seconds, responding to all this bullshit around you. You got a cell phone ringing. Oh, there's a car over there. Because the meditation is based on observe those sensations, the senses. And it's really, we have more senses than 5 senses. Some will argue we have more senses than 6. But being aware of what's going on in all of those senses and being in a state of calmness all throughout the meditation. Being in a state of equanimous bliss. Now, this is something that we really miss in our current culture here in the West. And I would say many cultures in the East have departed from this mindful breathing and mindful way of looking at things and a sense of calmness. We live basically in a world where the Archons are creating situations where people are reacting emotionally to things that they themselves created, where they are false flagging actual events, macrocosmic real world events that lead to wars, and you're dealing with Archon, mind hijack, dream hijack, and people being blasted as they're communicating on Facebook and the internet, while one person thinks the other person is sending hatred at them. In reality, there's someone else in the conversation that's beaming a beam of light at them that is designed to disrupt their body. So from deep breathing to powering up, there's things like grounding, shielding, bringing in the power of the sun, flushing your body out, flushing the foreign energy in your body, potential attachments with earth energy and cosmic energy. All this stuff makes practical sense, almost in a physics sense. The knee-jerk reaction for people to warn against cleaning themselves spiritually is evidence that those same people that are warning about demons, in fact, seem to be controlled through fear by Archons, whether they're able to identify what's happening or not. Through their own ideology that only through Jesus Christ and saying a certain amount of words you'll protect yourself, but you don't have to actually clean yourself. You actually don't have to have a healthy magnetic field. People are like, what? Magnetic field aura? That's totally new age, man. That's totally new age. No, that's totally ignorant to not understand all of what and who you actually are. And to be ignorant of that is to allow yourself to continue to be controlled by the Archons that will laugh at higher knowledge, that love stupidity, that love trying to mold us into something from that movie Idiocracy. So be real careful each time You let that voice inside your head start dismissing ideas that have been truths for thousands of years and ask yourself at all times, are your thoughts your own? Are my thoughts my own? And I have not been immune to Archon hijack. I don't know if you've been waiting for me to say that for hours, for podcasts, or if you were just assuming something else. But the real reason some of us become aware of these things to begin with, we have that spiritual first-hand personal experience where we see sabotage in our lives, where we see people controlled through the emotional world in a negative way. And through some form of mind control, it's beyond the media or what we would call the elite or the Illuminati, or something in the physical world. We see evidence of people being turned against us. And so we look at this also, and the situation that we're in this matrix, not from a victim perspective, but from a sense of, well, what are these things here for me to learn from, to evolve beyond? Now that there are many people even questioning this reincarnation time wheel that we're in, how much of it is controlled? There are more and more voices coming forward saying that ultimately we're in a situation where we're duped into remaining here on Earth and thinking that this is our true home, or that this is paradise, and that paradise is just a few years away. It's just a few steps away, while they also say chaos is just a few steps away, also just a few years away. See, the Archons are playing this new age and apocalyptic and conspiracy, fear porn, and religious end-time scenario card in different flavors to different people that are different levels of stupidity that need to hear the script in a new age form, in a religious form, in an end times form, in an atheist form. An atheist form, nothing's good about us as humans, we're just animals. And a lot of atheists have leaned in such a direction to where there is no morality, there is no need to even defend humanity because, well, there really is no God and we're not really held accountable for our actions. Very few people that say they've turned away from God seem to show an awareness that there's been a whole lot of hijacking of religious movements by these archonic entities the Gnostics talked about thousands of years ago. So you have people that have turned away from the true light and they have been directed into these false lights. And you have people calling themselves light workers when the light spectrum is massive. It is massive. And we have solar flares pounding the earth. The electromagnetic spectrum, I believe, is magnified. So at this very moment that I'm speaking to you in this period of time, as we approach September 2015 and beyond 2015, this is a spiritual time where we should keep our thoughts in check and make sure we're not unmindfully manifesting negative things for ourselves. Because our thoughts are powerful. This is ultimately why there was a mass media that wants to direct thoughts and a mass media Hollywood machine, direct thoughts towards horror films. Bring those Archons alive in the film. Yeah, baby. Get all those people focused on the demon. Meanwhile, during this period of solar flares, increased solar flares impacting the Earth's magnetic field, 48 straight hours of geomagnetic storms. And we see another potential false flag shooting. Another shooting on cue with a geomagnetic storm. I've talked for years that I believe the dark occultists above this New World Order, they stage events during these solar flares because of the way that the impact of the Earth's magnetic field, the geomagnetic storm, the way it impacts human consciousness, and the way it seems to draw our world closer to the spiritual world. And not all that is of spirit is of good. And so the word of the Archons, which are also believed to have come from the sun, the Archons, the parasitic overlords, the implants in human consciousness, the periods where people are being implanted with false beliefs, the periods where people are under psychic attack from things they do not understand and from their own archonic programming refuse to even investigate. Of all things, they'll entertain the devil. They'll entertain crazy religious mindsets. They'll entertain their atheism. They'll entertain the view that 90% of us will be dead in a few years in the New World Order. A few men have all that power. They'll entertain bullshit. most of the world's population will not entertain the idea of the truth, because inherently they are a physical human being trying to use aspects of their lobal structure in their brain. And if there is something that currently has control over them, it's going to make sure that this perspective is not known to them. Their higher self may know that, but there'll be that part of them that's attached to them that'll make sure that disconnect between them and their higher knowledge is not complete, is not stable, in fact is disrupted, is severed like a cut. So they'll work to cut our cord with our higher self, that which knows all. And they will establish a cord or attempt to establish a cord where they are looping back disinformation. I don't have all this figured out yet, but I'll just tell you right now, I think there's a link with these increased solar flares and the increased wars that I spoke of, and an increase in people becoming possessed by these archonic entities. And it links into why this is one of the most unromantic times in all history. Humanity on every front is being turned against itself. And these archons are a part of us in a way. They have some ability to where they're able to control an aspect of our biology dealing with perception and consciousness. However that happened, whether they ended up with that technology, they cultivated that technology, and is that technology going to be removed from the planet? From the New Age perspective, we were saved a long time ago. And so we have to call into question those assumptions that this New Age is upon us. Because the real hijacking of human consciousness, first of all, it may have really just begun, like the next level of it, moving into transhumanism. And this may not be something that takes place in 5 years or 10 years. You know, this may be something that literally we wake up into a real nightmare in 50 years or 100 years. Because it's so slow moving, the people don't even realize that it's taking place. They are being boiled like the frog in water. Technology right now is being used to enslave humanity, and it's way surpassed our spirituality years ago. It's helped divide man and woman. It's helped provide in the cities this illusion of safety, the cell phone, so you can call the government can help you. Meanwhile, everybody has been now mind controlled to not think family and think day-to-day survival. Hence, the men and women have been turned against each other, even though each man and woman needs both the man and woman to come into this, to bring that child into the planet. Even if people aren't even having sex or involved, the amount of animosity that exists should not be taking place. And as I conclude this podcast, I believe we are brothers and sisters. And in a conscious society, we look at each other like brothers and sisters. We don't play games with each other. We don't try to force someone to play a role, mother, father, daughter, son. We don't place expectations that each of these roles be fulfilled a certain way. We understand then the larger cosmic order of things that for whatever reason we've been brought together. And so we may have these titles in this world of hierarchy, but there is a sense of true spiritual equality that we need to be able to see in each other, regardless of whether we're sexually attracted to each other, and most especially sexually repulsed. We have been programmed in today's society to view ourselves as ugly and to view others as ugly. And so even if someone does not necessarily want someone to be their mate or to chase them or give them attention, we are in a Archon-controlled world where we are taught to be judgmental in regards to the appearances of others, the appearance of other women, the appearance of other men, how white their skin is, how brown their skin is. And we may have an automatic reaction to that isn't even us or our beliefs. There are many people on the planet right now that have been programmed to believe such things. In urban environments today, and there are other people who are starting to wake up to this truth, they seem to show more of an energy harvesting center type of a system, these dense population centers, these big American cities on ley lines, where circumstances are such where most of the people are actually suffering. They're not actually happy, despite the fact they may claim that they're there to be happier, or despite the fact that their media may show happy, shiny people holding hands. The music on the radio may blast such bullshit. But in reality, in people's hearts, you have fear, you have lack, you have people looking out the window wondering who might threaten them. My life in Portland, Oregon taught me a lot about how that counterfeit manic, just be happy, just be new age, is really a cover for a lot of mental illness, and in some cases, spiritual entities. There's no doubt in my mind that there are certain appointed archons over certain major American cities, and that they rotate the guard through each solar epoch or cycle. Okay, that's what I'm feeling in spirit. Okay, and I don't believe any archons or demons are telling me that. I believe that we see shifts with the sun that are based in nature that mankind can observe. And there are certain personalities or energies that come during different periods in time. Astrology covers one aspect of that. There are many other aspects of that. But I would say there are periods with solar epochs where I've seen, and I've read in the news, and I've seen in history books, periods of, say, lots of gang violence or mafia violence, and things get quiet for a while. And I would say that it is practical and very logical to see how there are periods of time where more and more aspects of mankind are just going batshit crazy, controlled by things they don't understand. And there may come a time where things seem to calm down and take another turn for the better, you could say, to take another turn. And it could be perceived that things took another turn because people became more conscious, that something was added to them. Another perspective could be that something was removed from them, or something ceased their activity in a certain region. So hypothetically speaking, there could be a period of time on the planet for, say, a solar epoch, for a period of time for a spirit to come in, take form through harvesting negative energy from the people living in that environment, engaging in those violent attacks on others, violent thoughts on others, or programming of fear and hatred into them through the mass media that also helps bring life to this dark entity. That for a period of time, and I have no idea how this really works, this is just a hypothesis, for either a solar epoch using that solar energy, or absorbing that negative solar energy that's feeding back from the humans that had a negative response to the sun. So instead of a conscious response of love and unity and starting new projects and expanding one's consciousness, they have a violent response because we see how the sun affects people differently. So it's almost like solar power for archons. And the human beings are the solar panels. The human beings are absorbing the sun, and they are linking up to the human beings, using the human beings as batteries, not too indifferent from the matrix. So the sun is boosting what is happening here on the earth. And the archons that also come from the sun, they are feeding on the negative loop-back energy of the negative things, the evil that man does when influenced adversely by the sun, being duped to wars, raping women in foreign countries as soon as you arrive, bombing villages, becoming alive with war psychosis. I have studied, without going too deep, a variety of wars from the last several hundred years. And I do think there's something as possession of a group of men and women that allow the wholehearted slaughter and rape of other men and women. And when you have women that are silent about the things happening to other women, it is a clear hallmark of an archonic hijack of consciousness to where they're not upset by that. And that describes our world today. Our world today, clearly now more than ever, does not appear to be an empathetic world where the women are actually doing anything or saying anything about the world that's been created for other women because of the mind control that they're Muslims that may hate the United States. So on a subconscious level, whether they're aware of it or not, those labeled Muslims can subliminally or those labeled people from certain countries on a subliminal level may not be as human as those that identify to be European. This is happening in today's society. There is resistance to this truth, unfortunately, because some white people identify with white people instead of actually having a soul. So they're going to perceive, just like women when they hear criticism of their own programming, it's the same thing with some white people or some black people or anyone that identifies with a group. I would step back from your identity with man, woman, or group or race. Because as long as you keep identifying with one group, you are going to be programmed into thinking that you are that group and that this other group is after you and that you have a mortal enemy. And you don't have a mortal enemy. You don't have a mortal enemy. Your enemy is not men. Your enemy is not women. It is not blacks. It is not whites. We don't have to be even afraid of anything. We need to start becoming better people. We need to start keeping our mouth shut about others suffering under the gun. We need to realize there are miracles in this realm. And we can rely on something else. There's nothing conscious about letting people that have been affected by the Archon realm, that have chosen to call themselves pastors, that are hypocrites, that have molested their own daughters. Okay? There is no reason to assume that they have ever been representatives of God. So any trauma-based mind control that you may have had, or anyone else may have had, done with someone that said that they were speaking for God, we need to really get real. We need to get spiritually street smart about who these entities may have been serving the entire time and why there may have been an agenda to convince you that God is actually a jealous, punishing, racist entity. Now, I don't claim to have some explanation as to how God works and operates, nor would I want to distinguish the concept of God from the omnipresent reality. Instead of an Archon universe that's more like Russian dolls, the reality we're in, there's an omniverse that's not single, that truly is all expanding. As we also look at our own solar system and we see the expansion. So this is very important to keep in mind, that coming across the real truth as to what's going on is an individual journey. It's not handed down through even the Bible or religious texts, nor can you truly learn about the ways of the Archons in today's day and age by simply reading the Nag Hammadi. All the Nag Hammadi does. The Gnostic literature, the codices, partial codices, many of them were left missing. We don't even have the whole picture. Well, they talked about the Archons or the rulers, and we know that this group was persecuted for it. And the very things that they talked about accidentally have been reappearing and reappearing in sci-fi, fiction, works of literature, as well as Hollywood. I would say by accident, purely through the creative intelligence within that soul that incarnated into the body of that director. And so this Gnostic knowledge has been retold over and over and over. It's like the greater body of human consciousness reminding itself the truth each and every step along the way to wherever we're going, to remind us of how we got here, who we really are, what this world is, and to raise the question, how do we get out of this type of a Archon-controlled matrix? And with that, I'll see you in the next podcast.